Hello and welcome to another installment of Uniquely Union, a series of interviews where we highlight prominent Union Countyans that make our area a better place to live. And now I have the pleasure of getting to talk for a few minutes with Mindy Grimm. I always have to start out with where I know you from.
Right.
I was your principal, Sharps Chapel.
Yes, you were.
I was a darn good one too, wasn't I?
From what I remember, yeah.
Yeah, from what you remember.
I never got in trouble, so I don't know.
Yeah, you were a good kid. You are related to the late, great Bitt Rouse. Lots of people remember him well. Talk to us just a little bit as we start out about Bitt.
Okay, he was my uncle, my great uncle. He and my papa were brothers, and together they ran a farm in Sharps Chapel, had a sawmill and cattle. We used to raise tobacco and corn and things like that when I was really young. And then Bitt never had any children, so he always he lived with my papa and my grandmother, and I always helped them when I was younger work at the sawmill, and of course we used to at restaurant school. That's where I learned how to square dance. There at the school, the building's still there, and we used to have square dances once a month, but it's kind of a tradition. It's kind of died off. You know, Bitt was the ringleader of that, and now that he's passed away, it's kind of faded off. There, we still play some. We still get together and play music and bluegrass and things like that, but it's just not the same as it used to be.
Time does make a change, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. But the memories are good.
Oh yeah,
for sure. The memories are good. Your family traces way back to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, honestly, I had my mom help me out with all that stuff. She is the history. She knows everything about our family. I know that we had a lot of my grandfathers back in the Revolutionary War, Civil War, and they moved here, like Claiborne County, Granger County, Union, and just made their roots here. And actually, the farm that's still in my family is from the original settlers. Like, we haven't sold any of it. It's stayed in the family all these years.
That's great.
Hundreds of years ago. So
that is outstanding.
Yeah, so it's just our farm in general is just a huge part of my history, and that's why I don't want to leave it. Yeah, so I love it.
And you have a bachelor's in education from Berea College.
I do.
What was your area?
Physical education, and I had a minor in health and wellness. And I played basketball there. Of course, sports has been a huge part of my life, and I started playing junior pro back when I was, I think, 5th grade, something like that. And that's what kicked it off, was just junior pro basketball, and then playing all through elementary school and high school, and then getting into Berea. They actually gave me scholarship money for that. I had a full scholarship to Berea College, and it was split 50-50 with sports, and they don't necessarily give sports scholarships, but they worked it out to where it was I guess named a academic scholarship. But so I got a full ride pretty much there, and played all through college. My senior year, I had a knee injury, a bad knee injury, and I didn't get to finish out my senior year at basketball, but I learned a lot there, and a lot of my really close friends I still talk to is from Berea College, and it's like one of those things you get into school and into a college, you move away, and then you're forced to grow up and pay your own bills. You're washing your own clothes. Mom's not there to take care of you, but you've got another family. I guess you kind of make another family there, and you just don't forget that kind of stuff.
So you had a great experience at Berea, right?
I lived there a year after year and a half after I graduated because I didn't want to come home necessarily. And because I was like, man, I just want to be here. And I had opportunities there. I taught and I taught at the community school there, and coached softball and basketball at one of the local high schools. But I don't know, it was just something. I was like, so there was a point where I was just like, you know what, I'm ready to go home now. So I moved back here, and I've been here since.
The first place I remember seeing you after you came back was, I think you came to coach for us at the high school.
Yeah. I coached high school girls basketball. And I was just I guess a part-time teacher, because there was one of the teachers had on pregnancy leave, I think, and I took her spot while she was gone, and I coached there during that time. And then in that summer, I was offered this other job at the YMCA as a sports coordinator and sports director at the Y, and I don't know, I couldn't pass it up. So I just was like, sorry guys, but I still coached. I coached the David Burke at the middle school was my high school soccer coach, one of my soccer coaches, and he was about to kind of step away from that. He had other positions and didn't have time to do the full-time coaching, and he called me and was like, hey, I'm about to step down as a soccer coach. Would you like to have that position? And I was like, yeah, I would. And so I coached at the middle school while I was working at the YMCA, and I think about 7 years I coached there.
Now, how long did you work at YMCA?
12 and a half.
Wow.
12 and a half years at the YMCA.
Doesn't seem like you're that old.
Well, I'm 37, but I graduated high school in 2000, and I was at Brea for 5 more years. So, and as soon as I had the opportunity to get at the Y and get that position, I had to take it. It was like something I just really wanted.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be, and I love the YMCA. It's still, I think even if I get in retirement age, I'm probably going to go back there, even if I have to just greet people at the door. That's one of those things. I'll always love the YMCA.
Well, I, for one, was thrilled to see you come back to Union County.
Thank you.
It's always good to see our former students that do well come back home. How did you wind up in your present position with ICARE?
Okay, that was 4 years ago. 2017 is when I started with ICARE. It was also through the YMCA. We have branch out programs at the Y. We had a couple. They're prevention, like for diabetes and obesity prevention classes, and we would teach those. This was several years before, and before I had the job here. And we would go to the middle school, and we had to select a group of students who had signed waivers and had met certain criteria that could be in those classes. We talked about nutrition, exercise. We took the students outside in their special areas, and so we would go outside, play games, teach them how to work out, that sort of thing. And from doing that, as a sports coordinator, I had to set that up. So that's the first time I met Eddie at the school board.
Eddie Grimm.
Eddie Grimm, yeah. And so I had already established that relationship with him many years ago through that sort of interaction with him and me being an employee of the YMCA, but also doing branching work here in the county. And then of course, that was like a small funding, and you know how grant funding is, it only lasts for so long. So when we lost that grant money, we had to pull out of the school system, obviously, but during that time, it was good. And then I guess in 2017, We had an employee there who we had another grant opportunity, and we had hired a new guy to take that position, and his name is Creech Hardy. And he did outreach here in the county with the alternative school and some of the alternative school students, and his job was to just kind of instill a sense of pride or purpose into some of the students' lives, and just so he would take them on backpacking trips, canoeing trips. We worked out a thing where he could go to Big Ridge State Park, and they cleared out trails, community service, things like that. In turn, if they, had their schoolwork done, they got points throughout the week, and if they had so many points, then on Friday they got to go to the park and canoe or paddle boat.
And this was lots of our kids that struggle with behavior and
Right.
completing work, and
All the students were from the alternative school. All of them were, yeah.
and that was a great program for them, because so much of the time, once a kid winds up at the alternative school, they're just they're there, and there's not a lot of opportunity for them to have good positive interaction
Yeah.
outside of the school day.
No, yeah.
It was a great program.
Yeah, for sure. And to have them, I think it helped a lot of their mental, emotional health too.
Now, is that program still in?
Yes, Creech has since moved. He got another job, and he's a great guy. He got another job in actually Washington State. So that's right up his alley. And so from that, I haven't spoke to him since the school year was over with. But that's the last time I spoke to him. That's where he was headed. But okay, so from him getting this job here, he approached me one day. It's in my office at the Y, and he's like, "Hey, look. I know this program, we were talking to Eddie, and at the time, Mike Miller was in charge of ICARE. And he's like, look, I think Mike's going to step down. Well, actually, he wanted an assistant. He needs an assistant because, no offense to Mike, but computers was not his thing.
It's not for a lot of us.
And so everything in the state was no longer paperwork. It's all through email now, electronic. Everything is. And so he needed an assistant to help him with. And I was like, you know what? I could probably do that. So Creech is like, great, call Eddie, because so that's what I did. And I called Eddie, and he's like, can you come in and we just talk about what needs to be done. And so we're sitting there at the school board, and it's everyone's in there in that meeting room there, and Mike's there, and he's like, you know what? I think you just need this whole position yourself. I think I'm just going to step away. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? He's like, no, I think you got it. I feel good about handing this off to you. So I felt like really honored that he would, be like, yeah, you got this. And he's been, anytime I need something, of course, all I do is call him. But,
and I don't think, based on your track record, which we'll talk about here in a minute, I do not think he was mistaken.
Oh, thank you.
I think he
Yeah.
did well in handing it off to you.
Well, thank you. He definitely, it surprised me, but I'm honored at the same time that I did get the job. And that's where I'm at now.
Now, I predict that if we went around and took a little poll of 100 Union Countyans and asked them, what is ICARE? They wouldn't even know it exists. It's one of the better kept secrets, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So explain, what is ICARE? What do even the letters ICARE stand for? And kind of walk us through it.
From what I understand, this started in 2010. ICARE as a entity. And it was I can't remember everyone's name who started it, and no offense to them, but I don't remember. But it was just a vision that someone had, and was like, let's do this. And so they just rolled with it, and it grew over time. And I don't know that ICARE necessarily it's not an acronym, but it just kind of means.
It is a great name, isn't
It just means, what it says, I care. And so the whole point was to, from the original creation of it, was to help students, mostly between the ages of 12 and 18, to make better decisions and hopefully stay away from drugs and alcohol abuse.
So a great part of its focus is anti-drug and alcohol abuse.
Yes. Now, as over the years, though, it has changed. It's even changed a bit since 2017, since I started. The whole idea now is I like that you said that it's a hidden secret. I'm trying to pull that out a little bit. If you notice, we may have some more signs. We've started rebranding. We've got a new logo, that kind of stuff. But it's the ICARE is a coalition of a group of people, community leaders, that kind of lead, guide, and direct the path of the county, of the community. So, for example, of course, the Board of Education is going to be on that coalition, because the whole point of the ICARE is a prevention mechanism, if you say. We're not treatment based. So if someone calls me who has say they have a drug addiction or a substance use disorder, I can refer them to someone else. But we don't have any treatment facilities here in this county,
Right.
and we don't have the capacity for that. But I can refer them to someone else. But our idea, like the whole idea behind prevention, is that, okay, I was trying to tell it like this. Okay, so I was a lifeguard at the YMCA. I've been a lifeguard since I started being a lifeguard when I was in college. I could maintain my lifeguarding certification all through the whole time I was at the Y. So for 12, 13 years I've been a lifeguard. And I was also in charge of training lifeguards through the Red Cross. And so I prepare them to be lifeguards. And throughout my whole entire time of being a lifeguard, I've only had to jump in the water to save one person. And that's pretty good, in my opinion, that out of 12 and a half years, well, probably longer than that because I was a lifeguard in college, but out of 12 and a half, 13 years, I've only had to jump in the water once to save one person. And I think the reason why I haven't had to do that is because of prevention methods. For example, say we have a birthday party at the YMCA. Each kid is swim tested. Can you swim? Can you tread water? Do you need a lot of flotation? And so each kid has a certain color necklace. So as a lifeguard, that's a prevention standard. Because if you got 30 kids in a pool, I can't remember if the guy in the red swimming shorts could swim or not. But if he has a red necklace on, I know that kid cannot swim on his own without flotation. So if I see a kid in the deep walking on the deep end of the side of the pool, I immediately go and stop him and say, no, you cannot be over here. That prevents me from having an incident. So, and I say that story because I think that's really what we're trying to do with the prevention and the drug and alcohol and that kind of thing. We're trying to, as a preventionist, we try to stop that upstream, I guess you want to say, prevent the damage from snowballing to a point where we're having to jump in the water to save somebody over and over again, and it's not really making any difference. Well, what kind of things can we put in place to prevent that from happening? And so, I can't think of any other way to say it. We're putting those red necklaces on folks. Not labeling them, but giving them the tools And we also teach swim lessons, and so, at the Y. So at the Y, we have a kid with a red necklace who can't swim. Well, I'm going to tell that parent, hey, we offer swim lessons here on Thursday nights, and I can give you a scholarship if you can't afford it. So why don't we teach Johnny how to swim, and next time the pool party he comes, he don't have to wear this red necklace anymore. So in the end, that's kind of what we do, and that's kind of why it's under the table. You don't see us doing that, that stuff happens underneath, and so. But I would like us to be a little bit more public, where people could recognize us. But we're doing that work, and it just takes a while.
And it's very logical to prevent. I mean, anybody that thinks much about anything knows it's harder to cure a problem than to keep it from happening in the first place.
Absolutely.
And that's
more expensive too.
That's probably one of the best features of ICARE is its preventativeness.
Yeah.
How is ICARE funded?
We are grant funded. So the money comes from the state of Tennessee, filters through the school system, and then I would be hired as a contractor out of the school system and to perform those duties. Does
every school system in Tennessee have ICARE?
No, there are 12 counties in the East region that has it. And then there's counties throughout the state. I don't know exact numbers on that, but the state only funds certain counties, and you have to apply for that grant and get accepted, which that was already done before my time. So that was someone else did all that for me. So I don't
know. Good.
That is definitely a good thing. I just kind of slid right in, but this is it just takes a while. This has been around for a long time, and trying to get the momentum for that, it's a lot of work.
And it's like a lot of good initiatives that are out there. They exist, but people don't always know about them.
Right.
And that's part of what we're trying to do through this is to give the opportunity to make it a little better known. Are there opportunities for people in the public to become involved in the ICARE program?
Yes.
And how would I go about it if I wanted to become more involved?
First off, follow us on Facebook. It's Union County ICARE, or Instagram, and we keep that page updated pretty weekly to give public ideas of what's going on. Right now we have everything's on Zoom, or all our meetings are held on Zoom, but you can send us an email or a Facebook message and join our coalition meetings. I would love to have some community members to come to our coalition meetings, just because I think everyone deserves a seat at that table. If the motto, the state motto that's been adopted over the last couple of years is nothing about us without us. And so, and the idea behind that is like, let's not make any rules, regulations, curriculums that affect someone else without understanding like where they're coming from. And it's not going to be a perfect system, but at least having voices at the table, just like if we have an idea and someone maybe they have a better idea, maybe we can all work together to get that proposed and get it sent on its way, get the ball rolling. So the idea is to work together. So I would love to have some community members on our coalition, and maybe not even just as a full-time actual member, but just come to the meetings. They're open meetings. There's nothing closed about them, and I'd love to have them.
So what activities do you do with students in the school through ICARE?
Right now, our main this past year was working with the second step program that you have and you said all the elementary schools have that now, right? And the middle school also.
And it's up for renewal. I'm sure you're interested.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I love that program. We worked with at EMAC. That's the elementary middle school alternative center. And we were there pretty much the whole year. And, yeah.
And I was glad you were able to make use of that program because the middle school counselor who was on maternity leave a lot of the year, she was the one that was basically going to see that that was implemented at the middle school. And if you hadn't been able to step in and pretty much push it forward after she went on leave, I don't think it would have been successful at all.
Well, I really like the program. I mean, I was glad to do it, and I hope I can do it again if the school's normal, if we proceed as.
It'd be nice to have a normal year, wouldn't
it? It would be nice to have a normal school year. That as long as that's happening, I want to be a part of it because I think it has some really good principles. It not only teaches about. It has some drug prevention components, but it talks about mental health, your decision making. It's how to resolve conflict, and all those things kind of. It's like a rubber band ball, you keep taking those layers off, and
those are the preventative measures.
And those are the
you're
preventative measures.
About, yes.
Exactly.
So if I come to you, say that I come to one of your meetings, out in the general public out there, I see the logo, I like the idea.
Right.
I read the motto and I think, sounds nice. And I come to you and I say after the meeting, all right, I want to help. What can I do? How would you make use of me? What would I wind up doing?
Well, I got some things for you to do. We go to community events, and we set up booths, tables. You just handing out information. The word of mouth, spreading word of mouth, helping out. Now, as far as teaching at the school system, there's a process to that. Necessarily, volunteers would not be allowed to teach necessarily inside the school, but on our outside events, like the Heritage Festival that we have a booth set up there. We have a trailer that's a mock bedroom that parents can go through to kind of like a hide and seek thing. For parents can try to find where kids would hide drugs or alcohol or anything like that. They can be led through that trailer. And I mean, data entry takes up the majority of my time. I know that's a mundane job, but it's a huge help to have someone who can run an Excel sheet and type in some stuff in Excel and keep logged any data. Right now we've got some volunteers that are working with, we're trying to get some churches in the county that are through the faith-based initiative that are certified, because we don't have recovery here. And so not like a facility, that are certified recovery congregations. And so that I can have, if I have someone come to me, like with students or anything, that I can refer them to that church. And then within that church, if you are a church member, you can volunteer your time by walking alongside that person that needs that help. Does that make sense? Like, so I got a lot of things. I got a list. If you want something to do, I can find you something to do.
So if anybody's interested, they will not be turned away.
Absolutely not.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Now, every initiative has to have what they call sustainability. What is ICARE's plan or vision for remaining in force for years to come?
Right. Well, of course, it is grant funded.
Right.
And that's one thing that when I started this job is what I understood. Like, working at the YMCA really helped me to prepare for something like this. I feel like just being familiar with the way that grant funding works, and
it's a different animal, isn't it?
Yeah, and it could be gone 1 year, and nothing that you did wrong. It's just over. The money's gone, and it's not there anymore. Because
we have to ultimately remember this money comes in some shape, form, or fashion from the government.
Absolutely.
And depending on what happens in the government with the politics, it shifts the focus of what's important at the time. So, unfortunately, you could literally be here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, well, even with the COVID-19 that's going on right now,
Right.
we've already lost 12% of our budget for next year. And it's nothing that we did wrong. It's just that circumstances just led to that. And doesn't mean that we're not going to try to perform at full force, but I mean, we'll do the best we can, but we're losing 12% of our budget spending that we normally would have. And that's okay. We can manage that. But my thinking process is, now when I started the coalition and as the coalition director, what I wanted to do was build a sense of community and trust among the coalition members, and get, us relying on each other. And the purpose being is for sustainability. What if I'm not paid to be here anymore? I'm not paid to be a director of this coalition anymore. What if ICARE is no longer ICARE because there's no funding? There's no money in the bank for that. So the idea and my whole purpose of the coalition is to build those relationships and have folks implement ICARE principles within the things that they're already doing day to day. So like, for example, the school system, let's just take Second Step program, for example. That is evidence-based program, and it hits all the aspects of that prevention line that I'm looking for in the prevention, substance abuse prevention. So if I'm gone tomorrow, all those teachers at all those schools, elementary, middle school, once this program started, it can stay there, and I don't have to be around anymore, but it's still going. And that's, and at the health department, they do a lot of things in the school system, and they have implemented a lot in their strategic plan. I'm on the health council, and so as a part of ICARE, being on the health council, I got to kind of, I'm not going to say push my ideas, but I got to implement some of my thoughts about, what if the health department, and part of their plan, what if there's a substance abuse component in that? And so now, over the next 5 years, in their plan, they have substance abuse prevention in their plan. That's our Union County Health Department. So that's the school system that has it now, or has a curriculum now. The health department is on their plan, and then also our UT Extension office. They do a tremendous job. They have a program called Health Rocks, and they got funded for that again. And so they go into the school system, and it's all another type of evidence-based education for resiliency, mental health, emotional health. And so those are just three things that we've tried to build over the past 4 years for sustainability. So if ICARE goes away and I'm working at McDonald's handing out hamburgers, okay, that's fine. It's still going to be around, and it's still going to be happening. And that's the idea that I've really worked hard on, is just putting that in folks' mind. Let's implement substance abuse prevention in what you're already doing. Let's not make a new program. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's not be like, oh, ICARE's doing this, and compete. Why don't we just, whatever you're doing, can you just throw some substance abuse prevention into that? Sure, okay, great. And then that's how we've kept the wheels on the bus going round and round, if you want to say that, so far.
And I like this thing you gave me, 3 common myths about substance use disorder, which has the acronym SUD, S-U-D.
Substance use disorder, yeah.
And I think people would be interested in hearing them. With enough willpower, you can beat addiction. Of course, specifically, we're talking about drug and alcohol, but addiction's addiction. People are addicted to all kinds of things all the time. And some people have more willpower than others, but an addiction's an addiction.
Oh, yeah. And I think what's the second myth that I gave you? There's
Substance use disorder is a moral failing.
Okay, so myth 1 and 2 kind of go hand in hand a little in a sense, and I can kind of expound on those just as kind of combined. So for a long time, I'll just be real and honest with you. I always thought, because I grew up around substance abuse, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody even here in this room and anybody who's watching is going to be able to raise their hand and say, hey, I know somebody who has a substance abuse disorder.
I could.
And that's, whether it's mild or severe, everyone's going to know somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a long time, I had this, I don't know, hate toward it, you know, and just was like, I don't understand it. Because I never had that. I never dealt with it, so I didn't come from that aspect of it. I never had that perspective, so I was like, you know what, just almost like, let's just leave them over here, and I'll just go on with my life, let them do what they need to do, and if they really cared about me,
Mm-hmm.
they would quit, or they would stop, you know, or they would this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I just held on to that, and that was just it. Like, well, they just don't care enough. They just
And I
don't.
think lots of society is that way.
Mm-hmm. But as I got a little bit older and started to educate myself about it, and then especially since I started this job, it's not necessarily a moral failing. You know, and maybe it does start out as a willful choice in the beginning. You know, let's just have a little fun on the weekends, and then it turns into, I can't stop. I have to have this before I can even function. And it is a slow fade. It gradually just kind of, and some folks it affects more than others. But I like to think about, when you're thinking about substance abuse disorder, and you're like, well, that's not really a disorder. It's just they can stop. That person could stop doing that. Not necessarily. And this is what that really helped me to understand how it is it's a mental disorder in a way. So, for example, let's say it is preventative. Just like a lot of diseases are preventative. Let's say I like to eat really high fatty foods, and I know not to eat that stuff. I know my doctor's told me, and don't eat them. You're going to gain weight. You have a family history of diabetes and heart disease. Don't stay away from that. But my choice was, no. I'll just eat a cheeseburger, or I'll just eat some fries, you just continue to do that. And before you know it, you're eating it, and you know not to do it, but you continue, and then it becomes like really hard for you to go on that diet. And then you develop diabetes, and then you develop heart disease, which are two things that you could have prevented, but now it's actually a condition that you need to seek treatment for, medical treatment for. So that's kind of like the way I like to look at this, the drug prevention, or the substance use disorder, as it is a disease, just like heart disease or diabetes. You get to a point in that where you have to have medical help or some sort of treatment to help you get through that,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
You're doing great. An interesting thing, and one of my favorite things about you, Union County has hundreds of students that flow through our system every year.
Mm-hmm.
We have 100 or so graduates every year. Lots of them are very well accomplished, but they move away, and they're accomplished in their area in another location, and we don't really hear a lot about them, so we don't know what they're out there,
Right.
what they're doing, how they're contributing to society. You made the choice, which we alluded to a little bit earlier. You came back home.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose to come back home, and why do you choose to stay? Because obviously you're an accomplished young lady. You could go several places, do several different things. So why do you choose to stay in your home county?
One is just all my family lives here. Most all my family is here. And I really like the smallness of it, but I also see the potential for the county to do more at the same time, if that makes sense. And I want to be part of that growth. But I really I love the farm life. I love the lake. I just love the quietness. I love just the people. It's there's not really. I've been a lot of places, but there's not really a lot of. You can't find what's here anywhere else.
Right.
And you can talk to people. A lot of folks have moved here from outside, from up north, and coming in and moving around the North Lake, and that if you talk to them, you'll hear the same thing from them. They're like, man, it's just different.
And sometimes Union County itself, like ICARE, is a well-kept secret.
Oh yeah.
And it's pieces like ICARE and other lesser-known good initiatives that are going on that continue to make Union County the good place that it is. Well, is there anything in closing you'd like to add to?
I'm just glad to be here. I appreciate your sitting down with me and chatting.
It's been an enjoyable conversation.
Well, thank you.
It's really funny. I've known you most of your life, but this is probably the longest conversation we ever had.
Yeah, usually in passing, yeah.
Yeah, that's just life. And to you all who are watching out there, if you would like to get involved, you can contact Mindy through Union County ICARE at unioncountyicare@gmail.com.
That's right.
That's unioncountyicare@gmail.com. No capital letters, no spaces.
Right.
And thank you for joining us for this segment of Uniquely Union. And we appreciate you. Thank you.